Alright, so this is going to be my Fall Guys tier list from the perspective, at least how I'm hoping to do it, and this is very impromptu, perspective of which things I think are like good and like healthy for the game and stuff that should stay, and then also stuff that I think isn't the best for the game. I'll kind of explain it as I go what I mean by that, because it's vague and honestly I haven't thought about this at all and I have no clue what I'm going to give anything and it might get shifted around a little bit. But I'll kind of just give my justification for things, and a lot of it's like how interactive is it, and like kind of how fun is it, and kind of the general feelings I've gotten that people feel about it, but also not just like kind of going with what all other people think, I guess, just kind of like talking it through and seeing what I think. So anyways, so Block Party. Block Party is a survival game. Block Party usually doesn't result in like a huge wipe, but it usually like thins off a decent few people, and even when you're good at it, you can get to a point where you can pretty much, if nobody else was there and it was just you, you could do it pretty easily. But the more comfortable you get with it, the more you can push your luck a little bit with messing with other people, and the more you can improve with dealing with other people that are messing with you. And I'm the kind of player that's pretty friendly and like pacifist in terms of not going after people. So from my perspective, I'm really just surviving with it and trying to counter people that I think might be going after me. But I think Block Party is pretty decent. Definitely the patterns in it do make it a little bit it varies. So if you get certain patterns for the first half and the second half of it, there's a certain pattern for the first half of it where it's creating these little like almost baskets, like these brackets that are coming down, and that catches a lot more people compared to some of the normal walls. And then also there are for the second half, there's definitely a certain pattern for that tends to catch a lot of people, where you have to keep zigzagging a whole bunch and a lot of people get caught on stuff. So but I think, I mean, you can add more patterns to spice it up a little bit. But the variety, I mean, the variation in that isn't too huge, where it feels like one is just you easily win, and then the other one is, you know, you never win. So I think it's A. A is probably nice. Gate Crash is pretty cycle based. You can get jammed up on stuff a lot. In terms of races, like this is pretty much you're gonna see the first and second round, and nothing beyond. Like you're never gonna see it beyond that. I think it's pretty chill. Learning the pattern at the learning the pattern of it in general, learning the pattern at the end. It's pretty forgiving, in my mind. I don't think I've ever lost this one before. It's not super. All the races have the thing where it's like a certain amount of people are going to qualify. So you stopping someone for qualifying just means someone else is going to qualify. So it's not really like the survival ones like Block Party where you can kind of have the interactive element for it. But I think I like it. I like it more than the next one we're going to talk about. I think it's decent. I think it's okay. I like Gate Crash in terms of the races, so I'll put it in like B. DoorDash I don't like as much. DoorDash, so I understand that they have games in here that are supposed to be like, okay, even if you're a really good player, sometimes you can fail, and that's okay. Like I like that mechanic because it's a game where there's no chance for the best person to lose just because they can do like if every single thing was a race, the best person would, like, the spawn would be much more important. And there's some maps where your spawn is a lot more important, and I'll kind of get to that. But if your spawn is the most important, and just, you know, I mean, obviously you want to reward people for being skilled. You don't want every single game to be like punishing people for being good and then you can put on a bad team. But DoorDash, you can just get tripped and get stuck in a pile of things, and I mean, there's some strategy for it. It's not completely mindless. And there's like stuff like, oh, the correct doors are like marginally tall, like marginally smaller than the incorrect door. That the only point that's really useful is the final door. That's the one you can tell it on the most, and you get a chance to see it before it starts. I learned that pretty recently. Like, that's the only amount of interaction, really. I don't even think that's intentional, so it's probably going to be removed, which I think will make it slightly worse, honestly. I like little things like that you can figure out. DoorDash is kind of a mess. I wouldn't mind if it I wouldn't mind if every time I got DoorDash, I got Gate Crash instead, basically. So probably D. It's it feels like an equalizing game where you can choose the wrong door and die, but it's the first game almost always. Actually, I don't think I've ever gotten DoorDash as a second game, so I'm pretty sure it's always the first game. So it's not really equalizing things, I guess. Egg Scramble is kind of. Let me talk it through and then decide what I think about it. Egg Scramble employs the same mechanic that a lot of team games do in this game, which is the optimal strategy is don't be losing at the beginning and then just team up on the losing team. This one I think is I look forward to it more than, so if this was just my personal ratings, it would be higher than something like Hoarders. But in terms of interaction, if you have two people sitting there and blocking your spot where your egg is, and the other team is not cooperating, which it is a team game in Fall Guys, nobody is cooperating with anybody ever. It's very difficult for them to get any of the eggs if you're just standing at the top of the platform, and anyone that tries to jump up, you just grab them, and then they're just stuck, and then they just drop their egg. And you can just do that repeatedly. If they rush you, it's like, that just means there's a bunch of bodies just climbing over each other, and almost everyone gets out. And the time they're getting stuff, like they're trying to get you, your teammates are just bringing more eggs in, so anything they steal doesn't matter. So, in terms of the team games, I feel like it's the most... The Scramble at the beginning is the most interesting, I guess. And then after that, it's not the best. In terms of the team games, this is the one I like the least. F tier for me is that it probably should be removed or extremely redesigned. I think they need to redesign the map for it slightly. But team games like this and Hoarders in general just inherently have the whole thing where it's like, hey, it's a 3-team game, but really you should just be grouping up on the worst team. And it does lead to really bad feeling moments where you become that, like, your teammates don't grab, because usually you'll have a pretty decently large team. Your teammates just don't grab eggs at the beginning, and then people are just punishing you and they're going after you. Like, if the other two teams know what they're doing, you do not have fun up to that point. So, like, I think you need to look at that game a tiny bit. Fall Ball is a very controversial game, I think, from what I've seen. I like Fall Ball, honestly. The reason it's going to be lower than it should be, so I think it's really good in terms of the gameplay for it. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on. Like, it's a lot of fun to play, for me at least. I guess this is my personal opinion, so let me back up from that a little bit. It's nice because it takes out half the lobby. It's not good because it tends to happen a lot on uneven player counts, which it should not be doing. It should never do that. So that's like the major part of it they need to change. I think it gives you a really interesting mini game, and you kind of have to see what your team's doing and fill in the gaps a little bit. And you can definitely learn and improve at the game and get better at reading, like, this person's going for a header, so instead of jumping up as well, I should be grabbing the opponent that's going to jump up for it so that I can block them from it. Or I should be rotating to defense because everyone's rushing forward and I can see that they're coming with the ball on this other side. If you play with I feel if you play with a team of people and all of you get through to Fall Ball, the experience becomes a lot better. If you're playing solo, or you're getting the uneven player count and it's not swinging your way, then you start getting, like, the kind of annoying stuff. So I think there's a lot of potential with it. If they stop it from happening on even player counts, it shouldn't happen on uneven player counts. I don't think they're doing things where it's like, it's uneven, but we're putting all the squads of people on one team, or putting the extra person on the other team. If they're doing that, that'd be really interesting. I don't think they are. I haven't noticed that trend, but if they did something like that, I don't know if that would fix it even, but I think the game itself, once they fix that, and that's pretty much what they need to fix with that. So I feel like, in terms of team games that I'd want to see, or that I think can be interesting. I mean, you can have all the team games are gonna be the same exact thing where it's like, well, you can get a bad team of people and it can be a bad experience. But I think there's a lot of interesting stuff with it. I like it a lot for what it can be. I'll put it at B. I was gonna put it in C, but I kind of talked myself into B because I think once you get rid of the uneven player count part of it, and once people have some time to sit on it and improve at it, you can still get just bad experiences with bad teammates. But I think that's every team game, so I can't really knock it on that. I don't think there's a way to nullify that. And I think team games are a necessary evil in the game, like I was talking about before with like really good players. It's like new players need to win sometimes. They just like, if they never win, like, so if you just do races every single time or survival every single time, the new players are never gonna win. The team game can sometimes just take out good players and then give worse players a chance to win. And it's like, this is a party game. We want people to all get the chance to win at some point if they put enough time into it. So this is the first final. I keep calling them finales. Finale feels better than final because it is supposed to be like a game show thing. So finale, I feel like makes more sense, but whatever. Fall Mountain. Fall Mountain. How do we feel about this? Fall Mountain. If all the other mini games for the final one worked how they were supposed to, and I'm gonna get to the tail stuff, don't worry. I know where all of those are going. Fall Mountain, I think, maybe I have to talk about it in terms of all the other final levels. Like, Hex's got so much different stuff you can do with it in terms of being really aggressive or trying to get into your own space and just be as efficient as possible with tiles. What's it called? I always call it the game where you jump Showdown, thank you. I don't know, I just thanked myself for looking down and checking what it was. But Jump Showdown, you can focus on yourself and just jumping over it, or you can focus on trying to get rid of other people, and sometimes that'll burn you and sometimes it won't. I think there's interesting interactions between people. And then for the Royal Fumble, I think if it worked correctly, it's very interesting. It's like competitive parkour or competitive tag in real life, where like people are parkouring over things and avoiding each other, and you have to like try to cut the person off, but there's like a lot of people chasing after one person. Fall Mountain is a lot more. Fall Mountain will let like the person that's the best at racing win. I mean, sometimes you just get clonked by a ball, but it really just comes down to whoever's the best at moving through there, and your spawn matters quite a bit for it. Unless the spinning door at the beginning doesn't get hit by a ball, then people get to come back up and meet up there because they have to push it. But I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's bad to have a game that rewards just whoever's the best at playing the game, and people that are good at moving and don't get hit by a ball and go through the cycles correctly win. I don't think that's bad. I think it's good. It's kind of nice because, I mean, you end it by actually physically grabbing the crown. It's kind of a nice symbolic sort of thing, but also I think game-wise it's pretty nice, and in different seasons you could change the map for it to make it different, so people that have been playing forever have to learn something new, but they still get the general core concepts of it, and the new players have kind of a chance with it. I know I just talked about it being like, out of three of the, you have the least interaction with other people with this, but I think it's okay for that. Slime Climb, very controversial. I think it's good. I think it's really good. I think, so all the stuff that people don't like, and this is coming from someone that doesn't do any of this stuff, someone that gets it, like, sees people doing that and just like shakes my head. The fact that you can, this is a game where it's a race game, but you can, doing all this stuff where you're stopping people will actually help your chances of winning. So being a little bit more aggressive and taking a chance on, if I do this, I might also fall into the slime and lose. And taking a chance with that is like, you know, it's pretty pretty fun for a give and take for that. It's like the only minigame that's like it, really. where you're going upwards and you're going. But the challenge is pretty difficult. If you get the wrong cycle for certain things, you can just get wrecked. I mean, there's instances where people are just gonna knock you down and you're just gonna get stuck a whole bunch and things are gonna be really unfortunate for you. But I think if they make another race, it'd be cool to have something similar to this. I think the interactions with each other is interesting. Your spawn is really important for this because you can get far out ahead and then like none of the problems with the other players really happens. But I think it's really, really important to have a game like this, and it'd be really cool to have more, just because the interaction with other players and the difficulty of it and the little shortcuts you can learn for it are really nice to reward people who have been playing for a while. Being able to kind of go after people for that. Sort of weird like text-to-speech voice in the background. Interesting. Anyways, so I'm gonna say slime clowns actually, yes. Fruit shoot. Fruit shoot is just weird. Like, fruit shoot, sometimes just things go really wrong for you. You kind of have to not be in front for this and just let other people take the hit for you, because sometimes just fruit just comes out of nowhere, and because you're on the treadmill, I don't know, I would remove the treadmill and make it a lot longer. I feel like that might be okay, because you have a lot more maneuverability then, I guess. But I guess getting hit is less punishing then, but I don't know. It's just, I don't particularly, when I see it, it just feels like I might just lose. I might just jump at the beginning and get hit by, like, clipped by, like, a peach or something, and get sent back down, and then jump again and get hit by another peach, or jump on somebody and slip or something, and by then there's like 14 people ahead of me, and it's kind of a slow loss at that point. I mean, I like the idea of it, but in practice it always feels a little odd and not super fun, and I think it's something you kind of need to look at a little bit and try to fix around with it. Hit parade. Hit parade is the most, I won't say the most punishing. This is the one where if you get hit by any of the wrecking balls in it, or if you get blocked by the gate, there's a good chance you just lose because of that. Like in other ones, which other ones? In Gate Crash, you can get blocked by gates a bunch, and you know it's okay. Whirligig, you can fail like 5 times in Whirligig, and it's okay. Dizzy Heights, you can fall off in the main spinning section, and it's okay. This, you can get stuck in the revolving door and you lose. You get stuck at the gate and you just kind of lose. You get hit by the ball, you kind of lose. It's like the most punishing out of them. I like the design in general of it. I think I do worse on this than most other people do. But I would always prefer getting Gate Crash or pretty much any of the other ones to this, just because it kind of feels like you can kind of, if you get knocked over at some bad parts, or if you make a mistake that on any other race would usually not cost you too much, it kind of is a little bit more punishing there. So Hit Parade, not major, like there's not a major problem that it's more punishing, but it's, I think, I don't know. It's average. It's okay. I wouldn't get rid of it or make huge changes to it, and I wouldn't keep it exactly how it is. But you can mess around with it and make it a little bit different. I think if on the ball, so a few things. If the ball section, when you fall down, it doesn't send you all the way back and you have to go back through the ball section to get the wrecking ball section, I think that would make it less penalizing than any other map, if they want to do that. Man, you could lose even if you hit, like, if the bumper hits you and you go backwards in the slime. That makes you like, dude, like you can't do anything for like 3 to 5 seconds while you're going backwards there. Not sure what they can do with the spinning doors. People just block the spinning doors sometimes, and it's just really annoying. Maybe make the gate open slightly more, because everyone just kind of jams in there and there's just a big dog pile. And maybe that's kind of the fun part of it, and it's kind of silly. But sometimes you just don't get through because there's like 30 bodies sitting inside of it. But Hexagon, just immediately Hexagon is interesting. It's you can do a lot of, you have a lot of different, I talked about it a little bit already. I talked about a lot of it already. Lots of interesting stuff you can do versus other people, to choose to block them out of sections, to choose, there's the whole strategy of going straight to the bottom and clearing immediately there, which I think is going to get countered a lot, because when a lot of people start doing that, that strategy is going to not be effective anymore. You know, the approach you take with jumping on things, are you focusing other people, or are you trying to stay as far away from other people as possible? Learning to kind of know in your mind where the people are above you, and kind of know like, oh, someone's probably going to be dropping down pretty soon, so I should be ready to deal with that, because they're probably going to drop down in my section. Or maybe I should clear something in the section they're in right now, because the only, like, I can see where they're going to land by the end of this. Let me clear all the stuff where they're going to land later on, and they're just going to fall through there now. And then just balancing out aggression with like not wiping yourself out as well. I think it's incredibly interactive, and even for a player like me that's not very aggressive with other players, it kind of forces you to be, and it's interesting and fun, and I have a good time with it. Hoarders is the same thing with Egg Scramble, where you just want to, if you have one ball and the other team has every other ball, and then one team has 0 balls, you're fine, you win. And then the strat is just form a barrier outside that team's area and just stop any ball from going in there, and you just win. It's less terrible than Egg Scramble, purely just because you can't so severely block people from getting eggs out as you can the ball. If they really want to get a ball out and you don't have the proper people defending it, you can definitely try to get it out at least. And there's less things to contend over with it. But I kind of feel the same way about it as Egg Scramble. It's kind of like, if you start losing at the beginning, which with how many balls are at the beginning, like, it's not going to end up being your fault for the most part. Like, it's going to be your whole team's fault. You kind of just lose. And even from the perspective of, well, sometimes you just need to lose because, you know, players that normally wouldn't win being put on good teams, you know, lets them have the chance of winning later on, sort of thing. Still, it just doesn't, even when you're the team winning, it's just like, you just feel bad for the other team, because it's like two-thirds of the lobby are just bullying 1/3 of the lobby for a minute. So, put that in D, probably. Hoopsie-daisy. My gut reaction is that this is fun and I enjoy it. You can definitely have moments. I had a moment where I got 2 golden hoops on this. It was great. We lost. And there's been moments where I've done nothing until the second half, and I got like 2 or 3 rings and we just win. It's definitely, I mean, obviously it's a team game. It's based on how your team's doing for it. I feel like this game has some depth that I probably don't appreciate for it, with how things spawn and kind of controlling areas and seeing what your teammates are doing and filling in spaces where there's not people, or blocking for your teammate if you're not close enough to get something, but you're close enough to block the second closest person so a teammate can get it. And kind of just knowing where hoops can spawn and playing the spaces that the most of them could spawn. I feel like there's a lot there. I don't know that there's as much there, like, with compared to Fall Ball, but I think it's better than most team games, I would say. I'd be much happier seeing this than Hoarders or Egg Scramble. Just based on my ability to influence the results of it and the perceived depth of it in terms of what good you could get at it eventually. Jinx is weird because no one ever sees it. Well, I didn't see Jinx for a while, and then I just started seeing it a whole bunch. Jinx is, I probably feel about the same way as it feels Hoopsie-daisy. In some ways, you can't control a ton of it because your entire team can just potato and get wrecked and get grabbed by everyone. But you can also just choose to get infected immediately, and just, if you're really good at just catching people and knowing where people rotate, you can just infect a ton of people on their team. It does have the kind of nice swing element where the more people you infect, the easier it is for your teammates to get infected and vice versa, because there's more people infected on their team. So there is the possibility for comebacks in that way, but also in the same way, if you have a team that's really, really good, it kind of punishes them, because if they're really good at, like a few players are really good at infecting a bunch of people, the rest of their team is now going to have to contend with a lot more infected people. So this one usually ends up being pretty close. There usually is like 3 or less people infected on each team when things start getting to the end. It's interesting. I don't know what I would change about it, really. I think it's fine. I think it's fine as like a rare thing. It cuts out half the lobby, which is kind of nice for cutting into the numbers of things. I think it's fine. Jump club's fun. Jump club's interesting. Like, there's not really much you can change with it. There's interaction just in the same way that and we'll talk about. I'll just do both these together, probably. There's interaction with other people. You can try to get them hit by the pole, but you're also putting yourself in danger more for that, or you can focus more on... I think Jump Showdown has a little bit more because there are platforms dropping, and if you choose the wrong side for that, you do have to like dive over and be careful about that. But in general, I mean, that's the kind of the basic flow of it, is just learning timing for it. I think they stopped doing Jump Showdown for now. I don't think it currently is in the pool of things that can be picked because of the exploit with being able to not lose, basically, if you do it correctly. I won't even call it an exploit, it's just doing something that I guess they didn't account for. I don't know if you can do that in Jump Club. I've seen Jump Club though, so I wonder if they just left that in because if you do it on that, it really doesn't matter because you don't win a game off of it. Jump Club is interesting. It's not as good as like Slime Climb in terms of, or I'll talk about other survival games. I think Jump Club's fine. It's okay. I don't really see it. Actually, I don't think I've seen Jump Club in a while, so I guess maybe that was also removed from the pool. I put it in here. It's fine. Jump Showdown is interesting, though I'd put it probably B. But I kind of like this. It reminds me of Wipeout, and I think it's got enough interaction and interesting choices and room for improvement with it. Perfect Match. I like it for how chaotic it is. It's like, whenever I talk about it, it's like 95% of the time, 1 or 2 people fall off, nothing bad happens. But the 5% of times when a big chunk of people choose the wrong answer and they fall through, it's like, that's a fun moment. Like, it's not memorable really, but when that happens, it's because you want memorable moments like that when it happens. You want like, oh, everyone fell through except for one person. That one person won straight off of like Perfect Match. Like they won off of that. In general, it's fine. It feels like more of a filler game beyond that, but it does allow for funny moments like that. So it's not, I would put it in like C. It's fine. I don't know what other logic games you would do, because it's the only thing in the logic section. I was trying to think of stuff like that, and I couldn't think of anything else that would fit. But it's fine that it's there. Why not? It's okay. I wouldn't want it gone, but I wouldn't really know what to do with it to make it better, because right now it's just kind of like, it's not exciting to see. There's like, I thought about like, oh, you can do like mind games. You can trick people to go into a tile that's wrong. You don't really have enough time to do mind games, honestly. You have like 3 seconds to jump onto the correct, you have like 3 or 5 seconds to jump on the right tile. That's not enough time to bait somebody and then be safe yourself. Rock and roll. Oh, rock and roll. The place where toxic things happen all the time. Of getting people's balls stuck in a... It's not even toxic, it's just the correct strat to do. Is just get people's balls stuck in a corner so you just win. It's hard to counter that if your team's not working with it. You need people to grab people off the ball if they're trying to put it in the corner, and then the other people to push. I don't know. I feel like it it needs to be changed around a little. You can have some not so fun stuff happen with this, and if your team just runs off and isn't, if your team just runs off and is just trying to block other teams and you're stuck up there trying to push it, like your teammates can more than usual throw a game for you. So probably like D. I don't know how they would change it. I think it's when I see it, I kind of like, if I'm on a team with people and they've still survived to this point, it's okay. But I mean, I guess that's kind of all team games at this point. Rollout's boring, honestly. Okay, that's my initial reaction. Let me think about it for a second. Rollout is, there's interaction with blocking people and getting people killed in the same way that for other survival games or like Slime Climb, you can interact with other people and get rid of them. But if you're not doing that and you're just letting other people do that and you're being mindful of other people trying to kill you and you're not doing, like, you're not jumping, just don't jump, don't dive, just make very boring safe plays, this is the least exciting of the games because you just walk back and forth and there's no danger to you. And if anyone starts coming towards you and grabbing you, just move to a different section. I've never had a problem with dying for this, but it's mostly because I don't play very aggressively. It allows for some play with like trying to go after other people, and you can do that, I guess, and I guess that's a positive for it. But unlike Slime Climb, where if you're not doing that, you're just trying to survive, it's still interesting and exciting and difficult. This game is very not difficult at all if you're just trying to survive and just trying to make it to the next round, and you just stall out sometimes, like 9 people are dead. It's like 4 of you guys need to jump into the slime. This is getting boring. I'm about to jump into the slime just so I can play a different mini game. It's not a good feeling. So even though they had the same thing of like interact with other people, trying to get other people wrecked, still not as good, I think. Dizzy Heights. I like Dizzy Heights a lot for a race. If you fall and if you mess up on things, it's pretty forgiving, which is good for the like qualifying round, especially for new people so they don't like keep dying on the qualifying round. There's not really interaction with other people, but that's every single race. I think it's just solid. Like it's fun to see. It's pretty chill to play. I don't know. There's really a chance to get better at it. But it's fine. It's good for a race. I wouldn't change it or get rid of it or anything. I'd probably just put it as a B. Royal Fumble. Okay, so let's say Royal Fumble worked correctly. Let's say there's no desync issues. So I'm grading these based on the fact that there's severe desync issues with these. If it worked correctly, this would be really cool. Like, you have to be smart with how you're doing it. You have to kind of, if you have the tail, you have to really be mindful of what other people are doing. Think about what they're going to think you're going to do and then not do that. You have to really play the room of people. And if you don't have it, you need to think about what direction they're heading and try to cut them off and try to make them make bad decisions. It's still, all the tail games have the chance of like, you're 1 second away and your tail gets grabbed and it feels bad, but assuming that the connection worked and there's no desyncing issues where stuff is happening where someone on your screen is like 10 feet behind you and they can still grab your tail because on your screen or on their screen you're right next to them. That's the problem we have to deal with right now, and it makes this really feel sore for people when they're about to win and then someone grabs them from like 10 feet away and then it just sucks and you know they're very upset about it. Or the fact that you can just, I don't think this has been fixed. You can just spin in the middle. If you spin on the really far, I don't know if I should say this, but if you spin really far on the outside of the circle in the center, you get fast enough where the desync makes it really difficult for anyone to grab the tail from you, because by the time they've grabbed you, they've already snapped away from you because of the speed they're going at. Which is like, and the person that found that you can do that even tried to stop someone from doing that and couldn't do it themselves, so like, I don't know. With the desync stuff, it's like, no. Seesaw takes way too long. Cut out a section for Seesaw. I don't, like, okay, it's same thing with team stuff where you have to like rely on other people, and that sucks. And the experience of playing Seesaw starting in the back is very different from starting in the front. Seesaw takes the longest out of every single game. I have stats for this game, and like if you look, it's like, oh geez, let me check, where is it? For Seesaw, 3 minutes long, 2.5 minutes long, 2.5 minutes long, 2.5 minutes long. Every other game like is taking 2 minutes, or not 2 minutes, yeah, like less than 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes on average. And these ones are taking 2.5 minutes. But this is the timer. This is how long these games take no matter what. This one takes like 2 or 3, like on average 2.5 minutes. This is way too long. Why? For the first race, you can finish in like 45 seconds in that if you're in this front and like don't make any mistakes. And then you have to sit there for like 3 or 4 times the length that it took you to finish it and just watch like everyone else suffer. It's really miserable. I would just say make it shorter, and that would be fine. Like you can fail a lot on this and still make it, which is kind of nice. But in general, it's just like I don't know. I don't know if I like the idea of the level in general. I think the seesaws and just the design of having it that way. It's an interesting conceptual idea, but I think in execution not even the execution is bad, just but like when you get it in person, just having all the seesaws, it's kind of like, this one's very spawn based, like I said, and it's just, it can get pretty bad. So, out of all the racing ones, it is by far the least favorite of most people. I don't mind it that much because, like, from my personal perspective, like if I wasn't doing it from like game design, what should be in the game or what they might want to fix or change out for something different perspective, like probably pretty far up there for stuff you should consider with that. Because as much as like I pretty much always succeed with that, I don't enjoy, it's not an enjoyable experience. I don't interact with other people in any way other than like yelling at my screen for being like, why are you going to that side of the seesaw? What are you doing? What is wrong with you? It makes me just lose faith in humanity, really. Tail tag, same reason. The desync right now makes any tail game not fun, not good. I think there's some interesting stuff here, but until that's fixed, it's something I never want to see, like, ever. And that is like it's a big issue with it. The tail. I think Team Tail Tag's less bad than these other two, but it's still not that good. I mean, I like Royal Fumble the best, and then Team Tail Tag, and then Royal Fumble, then Tail Tag, and then Team Tail Tag probably. Tiptoe is interesting just because actually, I'm putting up a Tail Tag. I think I'm at Tiptoe pretty high actually, because you have interesting interaction with like. If you pay attention to which tiles are shaking, and those are always the fake tiles, and which ones aren't shaking, and you kind of have a general idea of how the tiles generate, which I don't have right now, but I can imagine someone learning kind of that and being able to pay attention to shaking tiles, and also while you're doing that, you have to keep your person from falling off by being launched by other people. Like doing all that all at once, I think is really interesting and really fun, and it's a cool concept. Whirligig. Whirligig is really interesting. There's a ton of different skips you can do for it. In terms of the beginning section, it's kind of silly and random. This is like and then you have the alternate route of going straight forward. So if you're losing and you really need that time save, you can go straight forward and try to do that. There's some really interesting launches you can do with the bar when it's spinning, including one that sends you straight to the finish line, which you can actually get semi-consistently. In terms of all the races, I would... Like, Dizzy Heights is nice because it's like you can fail and not be punished for it. This is fun because you can fail and then do other stuff to recover and try to make up that ground, which I think makes it the best race, I would say. So... That's pretty much. I'm not super surprised by anything. The tag or the tail things being at the bottom because of the desync stuff. I feel like Royal Fumble would be B if it didn't have desync issues, and like you, because I think it's interesting and timing stuff for that and doing all that. The other ones probably would still be pretty low, but not as low. Egg Scramble being at the bottom isn't super surprising. Hoarders is pretty close to that as well. DoorDash is like the least interesting to me of all the racing games. I mean, it's just random. I mean, you can do the looking for which doors are shorter thing, but I don't think that's intentional. But Slime Climb and Hexagon being at the top isn't surprising for me. But yeah, so this is roughly how I feel from my perspective. Not a super, not someone that's put like almost 100 hours into it, though I know people that have. But just my perspective on kind of the different rounds and reasoning for it.